I used to believe that love, true love, was simple. That if you gave everything, you'd get something back. Maybe not in equal measure, but something honest. Something real. I was wrong. It started on a rainy Tuesday. Not the kind of poetic rain you see in movies, where every drop seems to fall in slow motion. This was the cold, merciless kind, sharp needles from the sky that soak you to the bone, no matter how fast you ran. I met her in line at the coffee shop. She had no umbrella. Her hair clung to her face, drenched and tangled, and she was shivering. Everyone around her kept their distance, annoyed and patient. But I stepped forward. "You can go ahead," I said gently. She looked at me, eyes wide. And then she smiled. Not just any smile, one that reached deep into my chest and made something there stir. It felt like sunlight breaking through gray clouds. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was soft, uncertain. I think I lost my wallet. I just needed somewhere warm for a second." I offered to pay for her coffee. She resisted at first, politely. But when I insisted, she accepted. That's how it began. Her name was Lila. We sat by the window. I don't know why I stayed. I had work. Emails. Calls. A list of things that, until that moment, felt important. But her presence quieted all that. It was like she pulled gravity toward her. She told me fragments, tiny glimpses of her life. No family nearby. Just moved to the city. Trying to find her footing. I recognized the pain behind her eyes before she even said a word about it. Maybe I saw myself in her. Maybe I just wanted to be the one to help. The one who stayed when others left. We exchanged numbers. She hugged me before we parted. Her cheek was cold against mine, but her arms were warm. For the next week, we texted. Just little things at first. Then voice notes. Then calls that stretched into the night. She told me she felt safe with me. That no one had ever listened the way I did. I soaked it up like dry earth drinking rain. By week 2, she came over. I made her dinner. She brought wine. We sat on the floor with our backs against the couch, plates in our laps, laughing over old movies. She fell asleep on my shoulder that night. I remember brushing a strand of hair from her face and thinking, this is it. This is how love begins. She never really left after that. At first, I didn't mind. I loved having her around. Her perfume lingered in the air long after she left the room. Her laughter echoed in the corners of my apartment, even when she was silent. I bought her a toothbrush. Then a drawer. Then more. She never offered to pay for anything, but she always said, "I'll get it next time." Or, "I left my card at home." And I believed her. Because love is trust. And I loved her. I started to notice little things, though. Her stories didn't always line up. She said she worked in fashion, but I never saw her leave for work. Said she had friends, but I never met any of them. When I asked, she said she liked keeping parts of her life separate. Red flags I now know. But back then, I called them mysteries. "Why don't you move in?" I asked one night, 2 months in. She hesitated, biting her lip. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispered. "You're not," I said. That night, she moved in. Just like that. For a while, everything felt right. Domestic. Sweet. I'd come home from work and find her curled up in my hoodie, lighting candles in the kitchen. She'd kiss my cheek and say, "How was your day?" And I, like a fool, would beam. But things started to shift. Slowly. Quietly. Like a house settling in the night. She stopped asking about my day. Started sleeping in. Her phone was always upside down. She laughed at messages she never showed me. And she never, ever offered to pay for anything. My grocery bills doubled. then tripled. She always needed just a bit to tide her over. A new dress for a networking event, a taxi, rent. I gave again and again, because that's what love does, right? I remember the first real crack. We were at a friend's dinner party, my friends. She barely spoke to anyone, scrolled through her phone, rolling her eyes. When we got home, I asked if everything was okay. "You don't get it," she snapped. "Your friends are boring. All they do is talk about real estate and promotions. It's exhausting. But they're my friends," I said softly. She stared at me. "Then maybe we shouldn't go out together anymore." I slept on the couch that night. Not because she asked me to, but because something inside me said, she's not sorry. I tried to shake it off. I blamed myself. Maybe I was too clingy, too hopeful. Maybe I expected too much. But the truth was, I had stopped being a person to her. I was an apartment, a credit card, a provider. And every time I looked into her eyes, that early warmth, the one from the coffee shop that made me feel like I mattered, was gone. Vanished. Like it had never been there at all. One morning, I woke up and found her gone. No note. No text. Just a missing suitcase and a lingering scent on the pillow. My chest tightened. I called. No answer. I waited. Hours. Then days. Then, one evening, she walked in like nothing had happened. "Where were you?" I asked, barely containing the storm inside me. She blinked. "I needed space." "Without saying anything?" She shrugged. "You're overreacting." And for the first time, I saw it. The mask. The thing behind the smile. She wasn't confused. Or lost. Or scared. She was cold. Calculated. Cruel. And I realized, with a sinking, nauseating certainty, I didn't know who she was at all. They say love is blind. But I think love sees everything, and chooses to look away. After that night, something inside me cracked. She came back after days of silence, after walking out without a word, and acted like I was the one being unreasonable. Her tone was light, amused even. Like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You're too sensitive," she said as she unpacked her makeup bag in the bathroom. "I just needed air. We all do sometimes. Air doesn't take 4 days and a missing phone," I replied. She rolled her eyes. "God, you're exhausting." Those 3 words stayed with me. Not like a slap, but like ice water down my spine. I stood in the doorway, staring at her as she reapplied her lipstick like nothing ever happened. I wanted to ask her if she even missed me, if she thought about me when she was gone. But I didn't, because deep down, I already knew the answer. From that moment on, I stopped believing her, even when I pretended to. It's a strange kind of prison, loving someone you no longer trust. You start doubting everything. Their words, their eyes, their laughter. Every time she smiled, I felt myself bracing for the lie behind it. She didn't try to hide it anymore. The late nights turned into mornings. The excuses got lazy. She'd come home with bags she didn't explain, texts she refused to show. One time, I asked gently, "Are you seeing someone else?" She didn't answer, just stared at me with a flat expression and said, "Don't be pathetic." And still, I stayed. Because there was a part of me, battered and breaking, that held onto the memory of her from that first day. That version of her, the lost girl in the rain, grateful for a coffee and a warm corner of the world, she was still in there, wasn't she? I kept thinking, if I just do more, maybe she'll come back. I started buying more, giving more. Trips, dinners, flowers. Nothing worked. She seemed more distant the more I gave. Like each gift pushed her further away. Until one day, I came home early. The lights were off. Her shoes were missing. Her perfume was faint in the air. I walked to the bedroom. She wasn't there. But her laptop was open. I don't know what drew me to it. Maybe instinct. Maybe desperation. But I sat down, hands trembling, and opened the browser. There were tabs open, so many of them. Flights, hotel bookings, DMs, and one message thread with someone named Jay. He still thinks I love him, lol. Paying for everything. So predictable. Ugh, he even bought me those shoes you liked. Few more weeks and I'll have enough for the deposit. My vision blurred. I stared at the screen for a long time. Long enough to feel like the room itself was spinning. My ears rang. My mouth went dry. She didn't just lie. She planned it. Used me. Mocked me. She came back an hour later, laughing on the phone with someone. She didn't see me sitting in the dark at first. When she did, her smile vanished. Hey, you're home early, she said, voice cautious. I said nothing. Just turned the screen toward her. Her eyes froze. For once, she didn't have a quick excuse. Just silence. Then, you went through my stuff? That's what you care about, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Not that you've been lying? Stealing from me? She crossed her arms. Defensive. Cold. You were too easy, she said finally. You wanted to be needed. I gave you what you wanted. I blinked. The honesty, sharp, vicious, hit harder than any lie. You were a project, she added. A soft little man who wanted to save someone. Congratulations. You saved me. I don't remember what I said after that. I think I just stood there, letting it all wash over me. She left that night. Took everything she could carry. I didn't stop her. I just sat on the floor of the living room, staring at the space where she used to sit and pretend to laugh at my jokes. Everything felt hollow. Not just the apartment. Me. The next few weeks were quiet in the loudest way. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. Every smile. Every kiss. Every soft, I love you. I examined them like crime scenes. Looking for signs. Missed warnings. A flicker in her eye I hadn't caught. My friends tried to talk to me. I shut them out. I was too ashamed. Ashamed of being fooled. Of being weak. Of being disposable. One night, I scrolled through our old texts. From the early days. The ones where she called me the kindest man she'd ever met. Where she said she felt safe with me. Where she told me she hadn't smiled in months until she met me. Was any of it real? And if it wasn't, then who the hell had I been loving all this time? Then one day, months later, I saw her. Downtown. Outside a bar. Leaning against a different man's car. She looked exactly the same. Same dress. Same smile. Same lie. I stood frozen across the street, watching her touch his arm the way she used to touch mine. Laughing at something he said. Leaning in closer. I wanted to scream. To warn him. To tell him to run. But I didn't. Because I knew he wouldn't believe me. I wouldn't have either. You don't save people like her. You survive them. Months passed, and the world didn't end. That's the cruel part about heartbreak. You expect everything to collapse. You expect buildings to crumble, stars to fall, time to halt. But it doesn't. The world just continues. Without a pause. Without pity. The dishes still pile up. Emails still demand replies. The rent doesn't care that your chest feels like a gaping wound. But somehow I lived. I got up. One day, then another. At first, every hour without her was a war. A war against the memories, the delusions, The aching hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd walk back in and say, "I'm sorry." It was real. I was just scared. She never did. Instead, I got silence. And in that silence, something else grew. Not peace. Not yet. But clarity. I began to remember things differently. I replayed her laugh, not as warmth, but as a mask. I saw how every kind word had a shadow behind it. How she never said, "Thank you," only, "Finally." How she never looked me in the eyes when I cried. She wasn't a mystery I failed to solve. She was a mirror. And the person I saw in that mirror, the man who let himself be broken for scraps of affection, he terrified me. Because I had let her in. Let her stay. Let her feed off me. But worse, I needed her to need me. That was the real wound. Not her betrayal. My own emptiness. One night, I opened an old box. Inside, photos. Receipts. Her scarf. The stupid candle she loved. I held it all, and felt the weight of 1,000 lies I had willingly carried. And I finally said it out loud. She never loved me. It echoed in the quiet apartment. The truth was heavy, but clean. Sharp, but freeing. I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to know why I had offered myself to someone who didn't care if I bled. I learned things. I learned that people like her, the takers, the performers, they find people like me. Givers. People raised to apologize for their own feelings. People who confuse love with usefulness. I learned that I wasn't stupid. I was kind. Too kind. To the wrong person. And slowly, I stopped hating myself for it. Then one afternoon, I got a message. From her. "Hey. Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I wasn't in a good place. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at it for a long time. She hadn't blocked me. She knew I might respond. She wanted something. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe more. Maybe money. I didn't answer. I didn't even type. Because I didn't need to. Her apology was air. Empty. Too late. And honestly, I didn't hate her anymore. She was what she was. A storm. And I had chosen to stand in the rain. But not anymore. A year later, I met someone new. Not at a cafe in the rain. Not with fireworks. But quietly. She was kind. Steady. She didn't dazzle me with mystery. She looked me in the eye and said what she meant. She paid for her coffee. She offered to cook. She asked about my childhood, not my income. And the first time she kissed me, I didn't feel like I was falling. I felt like I was home. One night, as we lay in bed, she looked at me and said, "You're so calm. Like you've been through hell, but found your way out." I smiled, a little sad. "I did," I said. "And I walked out barefoot." She kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're safe now." And for the first time, I believed it. So here's what I'll say to anyone listening. Not all heartbreaks come with slamming doors and shouting matches. Some come quietly. With pretty words and stolen trust. With smiles that hide teeth. Sometimes, the worst betrayal comes not from enemies, but from the ones who say, "I love you," while emptying your soul behind your back. If that's you, if you're sitting in the wreckage, wondering if you were ever enough, you were. You are. You just gave your love to someone who didn't know how to carry it. That's not your shame. It's their loss. Walk away. Even if you're limping. Even if you're crawling. Even if it takes every ounce of strength you have. Walk away. And one day, you'll look back, not with rage, not even with regret, but with peace. Because you'll realize you didn't lose someone who loved you. You survived someone who didn't. The end.